Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you are not speaking right now, it would be awesome if you could mute yourself, just because I know you're not going to talk over people, but just because sometimes there's background noise in your house and you don't even realize it, but we can all hear it. So just to go over what today is going to look like, we are going to be talking about a form of poetry called syllabic poetry. I'll talk about that in just a second because that's a fun word. We're going to learn two different types of forms of poetry that follow syllabic poetry. And then we're going to get a chance to practice one of them. We're going to talk about both of them. We'll get a chance to practice one type here in our meeting. I'm going to break you up into groups, into breakout rooms, and you'll get to create a poem together with your group mates. And then we're going to come back together, share some of those poems, and then we'll talk about the second kind of poem, and you will get a chance to practice that kind on your own as a little follow-up assignment. But it's really simple, and hopefully that follow-up won't take you more than 10 minutes, really. It should be pretty quick. So, as I said before, today's lesson is all about syllabic poetry. Think about that word there. There's actually a suffix on the end of that you should be familiar with. Think about that word and what it sounds like. What do you think syllabic poetry has to do with? Andrew, are you on a trampoline?
No. I'm on my couch.
My goodness, that must be a very bouncy couch. All right, can I ask that the bouncing kind of take its time? Just because my brain, all I see is a screen going up and down, and that's a little hard for me. So, syllabic poetry. What do we think? What words are you hearing there? Alina, do you have an idea?
Well, I'm hearing syllable.
Oh, you're hearing syllable. Anyone else hearing syllable in that word?
Yeah, me.
Anyone else have a different idea? Or maybe they're hearing something else? It's okay if you don't. Syllabic poetry does have to do with syllables. What suffix do you hear on the end of that word, syllabic? There, it's one we've gone over. Syllabic. Anyone else besides Alina? All right, Alina, go ahead.
Ick.
Ick. Anyone remember what ick means? Maybe the sign will help. Anyone have an idea? Ick.
Opposite?
Hallie?
Like alike?
Exactly, like or alike. So syllabic means like syllables. So syllabic poetry is using syllables as your guidelines when you're creating poems. And there's two different forms of syllabic poetry we're going to talk about today. The first one, maybe one that you've heard of before. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of a haiku.
I've heard of a haiku.
Awesome. Keep your hand up. Have you ever written a haiku?
Oh yeah, I remember I wrote a haiku in 2nd and 3rd grade.
Perfect. So this will be a little bit of a review for some of us and maybe new for others. And then the second form is called a cinquain. Anyone here ever heard of a cinquain poem before?
No.
Well, perfect. We're going to talk about that one too. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to ask that when my screen is shared, please do not write on it. It's really distracting when people are writing on my screen. I know sometimes like you accidentally swipe for those of you that have a touch screen and you end up accidentally writing on it, and that's okay. But try your best to keep your hands off the screen so that it doesn't mess up what's on the screen.
Can you please mute yourself?
All right, so I'm going to set myself up here so I can see all of you and the screen share at the same time. I've learned how to do this. It's not easy. All right, can you all see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Awesome. So we're going to start by talking about this poem here since it's a little bit more familiar. First of all, looking at the word haiku, you might get some indicators, the way the letters are formed. Where do you think a haiku comes from? What country do you think a haiku originated from? Charlotte, what do you think?
So, it's not exactly an answer, but you're having a lot of static. That might be just my speaker.
I think it's because my husband is choosing this time to microwave. So he's done now, and hopefully it won't be an issue from here on out. I know it's hard doing this at lunchtime. So, does it sound clearer right now, Charlotte?
Well, it's clearer, but I don't know if anyone else is hearing it.
Is anyone else hearing a lot of static?
I am.
We're hearing a lot of static, and it's still going static for you.
For me, it's not static.
Well, I apologize. That could be my internet connection. I will turn my phone off. That might help. Or actually, I'll take it off Wi-Fi.
Your static just stopped.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Still going to take my phone off Wi-Fi. All right. So, a haiku poem. Where do we think it comes from?
Africa? No.
Lucy, is
Be
your hand
Africa.
up?
China?
No. Lena, what do you think?
Maybe somewhere in Asia?
It is somewhere in Asia. Hey, yo. You're muted.
Japan?
It is. It's from Japan. So a haiku poem originated in Japan. And a haiku poem traditionally is about something that is inspired by nature. So most haiku poems you'll find, the inspiration behind them is something in the natural world. No, that's not 100% true of all haikus, but that's kind of when a haiku poem came to be, that was kind of the format of a haiku. It was come from nature. But in order for a haiku poem to be a haiku poem, it has to follow a certain format. Raise your hand if you've had some experience with haikus again. All right, thinking about that, how many lines is a haiku poem traditionally?
3.
Charlotte, did you have an idea? No? Lucy, what do you think?
I think it's 3.
It is, and I think Andrew agrees with you.
Yep.
It is 3 lines. So haiku poems are always 3 lines, and within each of those lines, there's a certain amount of syllables. The first line is always this many syllables. If you think you know, hold up your hand to show the amount of syllables. I've got some guesses. Love it. All right, I'll just let you know. A haiku poem, the first line is always 5 syllables.
What?
5.
Yeah,
Now remember, when we're talking about syllables, we're not talking about words because oftentimes words have more than 1 syllable. So if I use the word forest in my haiku poem, how many syllables is that? Forest. Forest. Yeah, it's 2 syllables. So it's not 5 words, it's 5 syllables. So it's really important that you're counting out those syllables as you go to make sure you're writing your poem correctly. The second line of a haiku is always this many syllables. Anyone have an idea?
8.
10? 6 is your guess? You're super close. I'll give you a hint, you're 1 off. And we know it's different than 5, so which direction do you think it goes? It is 7. The second line is always 7 syllables, and then the third line goes back to
5.
5. So a haiku poem uses the format 5-7-5. Let's take a look at an example that I have for you here. Ta-da! And as I read this, it might be really helpful for you to count the syllables. Now, often in class when we count syllables, we do beats on the body, which is great, but that can be really hard to like do beats on the body, but also count how many syllables there are. So in this case, I actually like to use my fingers instead. I like to go like this. Butterflies are cool. So we got 5. Let's do the second line together. In the big, huge green. How many syllables is forest? Forest. 2. So we've got 7. And the last one, they fly up so high. Is this poem a haiku?
Yes.
Yes, it is. How many lines? Show me with your fingers.
3.
3. How many syllables in the first line? How many syllables in the second line? How many syllables in the last line? 5. All right, so now that we have some familiarity with the haiku poem, you are going to get a chance to, I'm going to stop my shared screen. We'll come back to that later when we talk about our second form. But you now are going to get a chance to create a haiku poem with some of your classmates. Andrew, do you have a question?
Yeah, are we gonna have homework to make our own haiku and Cinquain?
Your homework is just going to be to make your own Cinquain. We're going to do the haiku together in class, and you'll do the Cinquain on your own.
Okay.
So what's going to happen here is I'm going to assign some breakout sessions. In a moment, you're going to see a little thing that pops up on your screen that says, join breakout session, and all you have to do is click join. It's going to randomly assign you. So this is kind of an experiment, and you have to work with whoever you get assigned to work with. There's going to be 3 groups. So each group will have about 3 or maybe 2 of you. And in this time, you and your group are going to make one haiku poem together. You don't.
And then we're gonna share them.
And then we'll come back together and share them. I recommend having one person in your group write it down so that when we come back to share them, you can read from that and not have it memorized. This isn't going to be that long. You're not going to have a ton of time, probably only about 5 minutes. I'm going to be popping in from group to group randomly, so you'll never know when I show up. So that is my way of saying it's important to stay on task the whole time. Since haikus are traditionally written about nature, if you need some inspiration, if you're having a hard time thinking of what it should be about, that's kind of the hardest thing in writing a poem, is coming up with your topic. My recommendation is to look outside and do something that's outside your window. Pick a tree or a bush or a flower. Maybe if you're lucky, a coyote will walk by right at that time. But who knows? Nature is unpredictable. So again, you're going to write one poem together, have one person write it down. Let's go again before we break out. How many syllables in the first line? How many in the second? How many in the last? All right. When the breakout session is over, it's going to give you a little signal that says you need to come back to the main room in 1 minute, and it'll have a countdown. That is your 1 minute warning. If your group is still working, then keep working during that minute. However, when that minute's over, all the rooms are going to shut down, and it's going to direct you right back to the main room. And if your group doesn't finish, that's okay too. There's not going to be a lot of time here. Any questions before we break out? All right, I'm going to create the rooms and I'm going to open them. Once you see that thing on your screen that says to join, go ahead and click that button.
tree.
Beautiful trees.
That's 4, but we need 3 more. We need 3 more. That's 4. So we could use that as the middle one, but we need
Beautiful trees. Oh yeah. I was about to say the
beautiful tree.
wait.
Oh wait,
The
let's do the beautiful tree because the beautiful tree. That's 5. Let's do that for the first sentence.
the beautiful tree. Yeah, that works.
I like the way that you're thinking about what are some of those words that you can add in and really make it get to those syllables that you need. Seems like this
Yeah.
is doing an awesome job. I'm gonna switch out of here because you don't need me.
We're trying to find out the 7-syllable one.
Oh, so you're on the second one.
Penguins.
Penguins, like it. All right, what do you have so far?
Penguins
Penguins like the cold.
Penguins like the cold. Well, what else do we want to include about penguins in the poem?
Well,
penguins sled down hills.
They sled down hills.
Wait, we can have that for our third line. It's 5 syllables.
Penguins.
Oh yeah.
Well, maybe something about how penguins that try to get fish underwater, like
Okay.
penguins dive deep down.
Penguins are fast.
Penguins.
Fast when catching fish. Penguins are fast. Penguins.
How about penguins dive deep underwater?
It sounds like this group is doing a really good job. I think I'm going to join another group. I think you can figure this out.
It could
all
be
on your own.
penguins.
Hello. We just finished.
Oh, perfect. What do you have?
Bright and shining sun, light flowing like a river, it can burn your eyes.
Ooh, I love that. There's some really great
Charlotte
words in
looked
there.
at the sun for inspiration, and it burnt her eyes. So
See, sometimes poetry can be painful. And then we use that pain as our muse to write the poem.
yes.
You're doing what all great poets do. Although, usually that pain is emotional, not physical.
oops.
All right, so it sounds like you guys are probably ready.
Yeah.
We're gonna take about 1 more minute. I'm gonna check in with the other groups and see how they're doing with time. So once you get the close screen, you're welcome to just come straight to the main session.
We should do their lives of flower because it's about nature, not body.
Yeah.
Yeah, there lies a flower. There lies a flower. Wait, lies a that's a 4. We need there lies a
blue flower.
yeah, there
blue
lies a blue
flower.
flower. That sounds good.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, we have a
We're
poem.
done.
You're done?
Yeah, we're
Awesome.
done.
I think you and another group are done. I'm gonna check in with the other group, and if they're done too, I'm gonna close out the sessions.
Okay.
Okay.
You renamed yourself.
Better than I would draw it. We're drawing. Oh, Elena's drawing.
We finished our poem
illustration.
and now we're adding an illustration.
Oh, you're done? Okay, it seems like all the other groups are done too. So I'm gonna close out the screen, the breakout rooms, and we'll meet back in the main room. See you there.
What's up, Pete?
All right.
Hello.
Everybody's back. All right, let's take a little bit of time to share our poems. Who is going to be the reader in the poems?
And
Davis, Lucy, and Elena. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody else so that we can hear you loud and clear. Once I get to that button. Okay, there we go. And raise your hand if you would like to start. All right, Lucy, I'll just have you start because you're the first, and on my screen, you're the top.
Okay. Bright and shining sun, light flowing like a river, it can burn your eyes.
All right, let's go ahead and count that out and make sure that that poem is a true haiku. Can you say the first line again?
Bright and shining sun,
And you could do this.
light flowing like a river. Wait, river.
Nice.
it can burn your eyes.
All right, give them a thumbs up if you think that is a true haiku. Andrew, can you please show us your whole face? Awesome job. That was a very nice haiku. All right, Davis, you're next on my screen, so why don't you go ahead? We gotta.
The beautiful tree, under that pretty tree thing, there lies a blue flower.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to read that again and maybe a little bit slower, a little line by line so we can count it out.
Okay. The beautiful tree, under that pretty tree thing.
Tree thing, okay.
There lies a blue flower.
Uh-oh.
What?
Is anyone else getting sick?
There lies a blue flower. Oh, wait.
What's a word that we could take out there and make that 5 syllables? Because we could easily just take out a word there. Anyone
Let's
have
just take out A. Yeah, let's take out A.
All right, so then we have there lies blue flowers, you could say.
No. Okay.
Beautiful. All right, Alina, you are up. Our last one for now.
Penguins like the cold. Penguins dive down to catch fish. Penguins slide down hills.
Penguins slide down hills. Give them a thumbs up if you think that is a true haiku. Awesome. Hallie, did you have a question?
Andrew, can you not put your eye to the screen? I don't really like it that much.
Yeah, I think it's important that we can, everyone's kind of staying still and really focusing. All right, it is time to learn about our second form of poetry. This is the one that you're gonna practice on your own. So I'm gonna put up my screen again, and we're back. A Cinquain poem. Again, this poem originates from a particular country. And I bet if you look at the word carefully, you can probably figure out what country this is, because you all have had experience with this country.
I'm trying to find my clues.
Ben, what do you think?
France?
What makes you say that, Ben?
What?
What makes you think that?
It just kind of sounds like a French word.
It does sound like a French word, and it's not like a very particular French word. In fact, that's why it's called what it is. I'll give you a hint. Take off this part of it and look at this right here. What do you see there? Cinq. What does that mean in French? It means what? 5. So that gives you a really big hint as to what this poem is all about. A Cinquain poem always has 5 lines. That's why it's called a Cinquain poem, because it's a French for 5. So it's a 5-line poem. Now, there are lots of different types of Cinquain poems, and many people will argue that one type is more Cinquain than the other. I don't think that's true. I think a true Cinquain poem is just 5 lines. However, there is a type of poem, a type of Cinquain poem called an American Cinquain poem that follows a particular syllable format. And instead of telling you, I want you to look at our Cinquain and see if you can come up with it on your own. So go ahead and look at the example. Maybe you're gonna beat on the body, count out those syllables. If you think you have an idea, put your hand on your head so I know you're ready. If you think you might know and you would like to share your thoughts, raise your hand. What do you think?
I think it's like you start with 2 syllables and then you double that and then you double that number until you feel like you're done and then you go back to 2.
You're right. There is some more doubling that happens, but does it happen in the direct next line? There's 2 here, there's 4 here. How many syllables do we have here?
Oh, 6.
6. Then it goes to
8.
8, and then back to 2. So it's kind of like skip counting by 2s. 6, 8, back to 2. What do you notice when you look at this poem? Look at the lines and look at the way some of those lines are ending. What are you noticing there? And the endings of some of these lines. What's an observation you might make? Charlotte?
Like with and or a, like not full sentences.
Yeah, they're not complete sentences. And that's what's really great about poetry. Whereas most writing we do, we want to make sure that every sentence is full and complete and doesn't end with an and or an a. But in poetry, you get to make the rules. You are the artist. And that's what's really cool is you can end right in the middle of a sentence and pick it up in the next one to keep the format the same, but still have all your ideas be there as well. So that's something that you can play around with too. You don't have to make each sentence complete like you would if you were writing an essay or something like that. Hallie.
I thought it was kind of like a bedtime story almost.
The poem itself?
Yeah, it kind of felt like it.
Yeah, and I think that the very rhythm, right? The cadence of the poem feels very kind of like bedtime that way. Almost like a lullaby. All right, so the sky grows light and pink as the sun rises and warms the sleepy mountains with a soft kiss. Your job, I'll keep this up, your job is going to be to create your own Cinquain poem. When you are doing that, here's what I'm gonna have you do. You're gonna go on to Seesaw. Your Seesaw looks a lot different than mine. You're going to go to this add button, and then it's gonna say this options. You wanna post student work, and then you wanna do a note. Because what's cool about the notes is that you can write directly in them. So I could write Miss Allie's Cinquain poem. And then I'm gonna write it right in there. When I'm done, I'm gonna click this green check, look it over, make sure it looks great. I'm gonna check it again. And then I'm gonna add it to, no, I wanna add it to a folder. See, not a student. Okay, you're gonna add it to the folder, of which I can't figure out right now, I don't know why. I'll show you where the folder is. You're going to put your Cinquain poem right in here where it says writing, poetry, haiku, and Cinquain. So if you go in there, you can add from there. You can click on this first and then add, and you will put your poem right onto a note. So you don't have to take a picture or upload anything. It's all there. I am going to send you a follow-up email that's going to have the instructions. Remember, your job is to just write a Cinquain poem. And you're going to use the format that we talked about here. So how many lines is your poem going to be? Show me with your hands. How many lines? 5 lines. Think sync. 5. First line is going to be how many syllables? 2. Second line, skip count by 2. 4. Third line, 6. Fifth line, fourth line, 8, and then the 5th line, 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2. I will include that format in the email that I send you and a little bit on how to upload it. You get to write this Cinquain poem about anything you want. So it's your art, it's your poem, it's your ideas. If you are feeling like you need some inspiration, look outside. That's where I get my inspiration when I'm feeling stuck. Any questions before we go? No?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was really awesome getting to teach you. I had a lot of fun today. I hope you did too. Look out for that follow-up email. It's going to come pretty soon. And then you can write your poem whenever you get a chance. And I'll put a little comment on it.
Goodbye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.